Right before we jump into this video, if you'd like me to send you a free guide to capturing motion in low-light situations, just look for this orange box over on FroKnowsPhoto.com, put your name, email address in it, hit send it, and I'm gonna send you that guide for free. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and welcome back to another rapid fire critiquerson, where I look at someone's images who signed up for a 15-minute rapid fire critique. This time we have somebody by the name of Scott. Scott signed up and he said that he's never shown his images to anybody, not his friends, not his family, not his pets, just showing them to me because he wanted to see how he was doing. And he signed up for a rapid fire critique at FroKnowsPhoto.com/mentorship. But what I want to do right now with his permission is share his rapid fire critique that I sent to him. So now the world can see his images.
Scott! I mean, I'm sure you haven't heard that before. Maybe 15 years ago, you heard it a little more. Thank you for signing up. Thank you for choosing me to look at your images, but not your family. I wish my glasses were straight. I hate that. Okay, so we're going to jump into everything that you talked about. Let's jump into it and take a look at your first picture. I know you're not happy with your Fuji. I know you're shooting auto, which I don't get upset with people shooting auto. I get upset with people shooting auto that have been shooting for a long time. But we all start somewhere. I started in auto. I was in the Running Man mode forever, for like 15 years before I figured out something else. Well, it wasn't that long, but I was more in aperture priority for a long time until I realized that I shouldn't be in aperture priority and I should take control of my images. On the flip side, you're shooting landscapes. And when you have a mirrorless camera, you can look and see the exposure. So one thing you can do is you can set your camera to auto. I mean, look at this, 1/1900th of a second. That's absolutely auto. 3.6, 160. It still gave you good results. But what you can start to do is look at the settings they're giving you, then go into manual and set them yourself, and then tweak from there. But change one thing at a time. I always say change one thing at a time, because if you try to change two things or three things, you're never going to understand what happened. So everything is cause and effect. If I change my shutter speed, X is going to happen. X is going to give it to you, actually. So what's happening is if you change your shutter speed and you make it slower, you're letting more light in because the shutter's staying open longer. The higher the shutter speed, the faster it is, the less light is able to get in. When it comes to landscapes with depth of field, the wider the aperture, so we're looking at 2.8 or 1.4, you're letting in a lot of light, which makes a shallow depth of field. When you shrink that hole down and go to f22 or f11 or something along those lines, you're cutting back on the amount of light that you're letting in, but it's allowing it to come in longer, which is in turn giving you more depth of field, which is something that you're going to use when it comes to landscape photography. So I have no problem with you starting in auto, as long as you start to progress out of it, which you could get into aperture priority. And it's going to be a good thing. You set your ISO. Now, for most times with landscape, you're going to be setting your ISO to something lower, because if you're on a tripod, you can get away with it. But also, you'll get better color and more dynamic range, as they say, when you are at 100 or base ISO. We'll talk about camera systems you can go with that you might like, you know, because I know that was one of your questions. So we'll get to that in a second. So first things first, first time anybody ever seen your work, I think this is awesome. I think it's a really cool shot. Love your positioning of the tree. I don't like the crop of this one. I don't know if the X-T4 has a weird aspect ratio. I don't think it does. I thought it was still the same. I thought it was still 2:3, but then again, Fuji doesn't send me their gear, so it's been a while since I used it. I'm a big fan of the 2:3, right? You did ask about cropping when it comes to landscapes. Like, well, I see you have a bunch down here in the timeline that are cropped. I have no problem with that. What I tell people when it comes to cropping with landscapes is if you have a creative crop idea where you're like, I don't need all that space up top and I don't need all that space at the bottom and I want to make it more panoramic or something along those lines, then go for it. That is something that you thought of. But what I will say is if you needed to crop a shot like this, that shouldn't happen because it's a landscape. You could move. You have the time to get your composition right. So try to get your composition right as much as you can when it comes to landscapes. if you're not going to do a creative crop. That's what I say. But you shouldn't be cropping landscapes because you didn't fill the frame right or you didn't get the composition right because you've got the time to move. I think this is really cool. I like the isolation of it at f3.6. I think it's not over-processed or under-processed. It's processed. It has a very dark feel to it, which is fine if that's what you're going for. We all have different styles. So it's all a matter of finding your style. I like that this is on the darker side. So let's just see what that edit does. So I don't mind the gray. I don't mind the gray. Some people do. I don't like gray very much, but I don't mind it. And it's personal preference. This is just to show you different options. Just different options. So I think that is a really good shot. So 5.6. All right, I guess we're not going to look at settings too much because it's all auto, which is fine. What I would say, that's not really fine, but what I would say is you have a 2.8. If you have that, and we focused on this moo right here, then we would isolate this subject a little more and the background would blow out. In this case, it's not that big of a deal because it's all part of the scene. But when you want to isolate a subject and you're closer to the subject, it's going to be nicer when you're shooting in those wider open areas. Also, a crop sensor camera at 2.8 is going to be different than a full frame camera at 2.8. We're still going to get to what camera I might recommend for you for the landscape stuff. But this is good. I like the angle that you're at. I like that we've got moo. We got the moos leading down. So I think that works out pretty well. Ooh, look at that one. Look at that preset. What is that? Capone. Capone did a good thing. Canadian Tuxedo. No Almost Famous for this one this time around. But these are just different presets we run through. Give yourself a good starting point. If you're not happy with your edits or you're still looking to learn, so you could still do that. But I think it's good. This one might be a little flat and a little under, but again, it's not like it's not like there's, no, I don't want to do this. That would be too bad. And so no, let me just answer your question. You're not over the top with editing at this point, which is good. This is nice. Nice rolling hills, 5.6. You're at 16 millimeters here. I like your straight lines. Your horizon looks okay. It's off, actually. Even though you're straight here, trying to figure out if we're off on an angle slightly. Let me try to line it up here and see if it looks better. But that's going to throw the rocks off. Yeah, then it's throwing off the countryside a little bit. So I think we stick with the original. I think that's okay. I like the dark and moody nature. I like that the... let's see, where are we focused? I can't tell if we're focused down here. I mean, I would probably focus down here on the mountains if we're going to do it a little longer. And this may be something where you want to go higher than 5.6 because you want to get more infinite focus. So let's see what Skittles. I usually come in here and do a lot of Skittles. Where are we at? Where's Skittles, Jared? I can't see from this distance. It would help if I was in the right preset. See the difference here? We got to block out the right-hand side so people don't see this, but that's a starting point on Skittles. So you see how it just pops? Sometimes it may be too much. You could always pull back, right? There's nothing that says you can't tweak. That's the point of these presets. Is they give you a good starting point, then you could tweak from there. But if you like the flat, go with the flat. You want a little bit more, go with a little bit more. Especially for landscapes. I mean, Skittles all day for me is where it's at. Same thing here. Watch this. We just can pump it up just a little bit. Great job using the leading lines to draw you through a frame. I wouldn't be afraid to post your work and show it. Even after these couple of images, I think you're doing a great job for picking it back up again. Going out and finding the images in the world, great. Letting the camera do the work, fine. I don't care. That's great. As long as you're enjoying it and starting to learn. The things you can do to get out of auto, go to aperture priority. That's the next step, from full auto to aperture priority, and then start looking at those settings. Dial them in. Play with it. You have a digital camera. You have a mirrorless camera. So you're going to see the settings you're going to see it right in front of your face, your exposure. Take a look at the images. Even sit there with an iPad after the fact and put the images right on the iPad after and then tweak your raw files. You're still in the area. You can do it. I think you're in a great spot. This is nice, using the lines here. Just be careful. The more you see how there's like a halo around the birdie bird. So that might happen with some of the editing. But I like using these lines to come in here. So good job finding that.
Let me jump in here real quick and say, are you tired of your friends and family telling you that your photos are fire emoji? Every time you post something like, this is fire, this is amazing, but you're not really sure. Kind of like Scott, who was afraid to show his images to anybody. Well, you can sign up for a 15-minute rapid fire critique or a one-on-one live Zoom mentorship call with me. Head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/mentorship to read all about it and to get signed up right now. Don't be afraid. I'm gonna tell you it like it is. If it's fire emoji, I'm gonna tell you. If it's not fire emoji, I'm gonna tell you how we can make it fire emoji. So anyway, let's get back to this rapid fire critique.
Yeah, desolate, really, I mean, just in the middle of nowhere. I think this is I don't know about this processing, if that's what the scene looked like. It just seems super, super muddy. But don't take any of that wrong. I just think that it's, you know, it's hard to retweak it if it's not when I don't have the raw file, because it has a muted look. But if that's the style that you're going for, then totally go for it. Still, you're doing a really nice job. As a creative crop, fine. Right? Look how we bring that to life. Look at the difference. And even if we think that's too much, we can still zero it out or bring it back. So instead of there, you've got that. So that's cool. I really like the feel of it. So go for the creative crop. If that's what you want to do, totally go for it. I also think, though, that the larger scene might be good as well. So maybe don't go to the panoramic all the time. You could do that and then leave double the space up top, and I think it would kind of look cool because I like the clouds, but I like the feel of it, and I like the composition that you did by not throwing this right in the middle. Yeah, I try to stick to that other aspect ratio, I think, with this. That's Silver Tide, that's Skittles. It's super dark. It all depends what you're going for, right? It's now we've got a lot of different colors in here, which is cool. This I just think is too flat, too under processed. It's just straight flat. And you could tell me that this is over, but that's, again, just showing you different options. So now we're at, oh, okay. So what's different here is that we're focused on the rocks, and then the rig, the oil rig, is out of focus. Someone's calling me. I can't take it. I'm busy. I'm on a call, guys. I'm doing a mentorship. So the focus is what throws me off here. I don't really care about the rocks. I would get, if you want the rocks to be the main focus, get super close, get down low, get those rocks, and get then the oil derrick rig thing out of focus in the background. Also, when you have the oil rig, there's things that you could do. Don't forget the wides and medium sights details. You could get closer and get the details of that. You could do a whole photo shoot just around the rig. The wide to establish the scene. A slower shutter speed is going to be able to get the motion of it that's happening. Try that with a longer shutter speed. Might be interesting to see what happens. So work on that. But really, I'm happy with what you're doing. Oh, look at that. Nice sky. This is a little better processing. That Skittles brings things out a little bit. Like, you could always pull back. Like, oh, I don't like it. It's too much. Be very careful about overdoing skies to the point that they look fake. Like, I've seen people, they go into Photoshop and they paint the sky down and they make it much darker, which looks like you did here because you got blue over here and the storm clouds are coming in. It may be a little harsh. I'm not a Photoshop guy. I don't go into Photoshop. I just do my tweaks here in Lightroom. I don't paint the sky and make that super bright or change skies at all. I'm not a fan of sky changes. I think I don't like it. I like this as the sun's going down. I'd be curious to wait just another minute to see if the sun goes down further. As it should be sundown, right? Yeah, PM. To see what the blue hour starts to look like, right? To see if the colors change any more. It's too harsh, Jared. But I think you could still tweak it like that and it'd be good. No, still no people, which is fine. This one's tough because the color, like, it's super dark and the light's almost gone. Skittles brings it back. But so one thing I don't want to do is over brighten when it's supposed to be dark. If it's meant to be dark and it's after sundown, then go with it. I don't think you're far off. I just think you need to tighten it up just a little bit. Maybe not as much as Skittles, but... And look, I don't just rely on Skittles for everything. It's just that landscapes, it does look pretty cool. There you go. Good job getting the fence. See, this is what we're talking about. Getting to these other images. Now you're at 2.8. Get close to that fence. You get the details, right? That's very nice. We just don't want to over harshen the skies. Good job walking around and getting this shot. I like your inanimate objects. I mean, everything that I've seen here there's no people. One thing I might see here is let's try to line up and square off with this building so that these bricks and all this stuff stays as straight as possible. That's one thing that you can do. Step back a little bit. I know we're at 16.5 millimeters, which is a 28 or so, 27. I maybe would look to try and be around 25-ish. I'd like to be at a 35 millimeters walk around or around a 50 millimeter equivalent 35, just so you're going to be flattened out a little bit and back up. I think it would be awesome. But this is really good so far. Really, really good just getting out there. No, and I don't think your processing is terrible right now either. No to this. Personally, no to that. That's just shit. We're going into extra innings here. I don't like this at all. I just think it's trying too hard to create something interest where there isn't. I like the angle. You don't always have to be straight on. I think that this works out pretty well. Even black and whites can work, but if I was to tweak this is my general style. Tweak it, contrast. They pull back just a little bit. You can get away with a lot with this. And I may pull out some yellow because it looks a little warm. And to me, right about there, looks good. Great job with the windmills. Long lines, beautiful colors. Look at those colors. Look at those. See, that's bad. Skittles did it too bad. See the halo that's happening? Too much. Let's reset it. We can still come in here with contrast and pump it without ruining it with Skittles. Skittles ruined it. See, if you look at this, that shows you it's too far. So Skittles doesn't work on that one, but contrast does. Vibrance, saturation. You can even sharpen a little bit. Clarity. Gorgeous. Beautiful colors. Really nice job. And that I may have gone too far, but just saying. Okay, it's fine. I like the creative crop. We got the rolling roads. I just think you could pump this up, add some of that contrast is going to add some interest, bring it to life. See that? Nice. Okay, black and white this time. Feels a little dark. I'm gonna go crunchy. Don't be afraid of the noise. I see some of that there, but I don't care. Difference is that. Getting rid of that middle just flat gray and going here. Personal choices. Okay, so we're wide here. We could also back up, zoom in, get a different look. I think this is cool. I think it's going to be more of a black and white one. I'm just going to tweak it myself. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I don't think this one sets the world on fire, but I think it's good. It'd be cool if it was like a steam train. Toot, toot. Debating where the focus... It's hard to see... Oh, it is a fire. It's hard to see where the focus is on this one. I probably focused on the tree. I like your composition here. Yeah. So, look, there's all these different presets, which brings up a point that if you have a continuing style, I don't like to use... I have a style myself, so I wouldn't use 37 presets throughout a shoot. I wouldn't want my landscapes looking different every single time. I want them to have a similar feel of processing. So when you find what your style is and you like it, stick with it. Doesn't mean don't deviate, but don't do the extreme like this picture and then this picture are totally opposites and different. Try to find your style and go with it. There you go. There we go with the oil rig. think we can bring it down a little bit. Warm it up. You can get away with so much more when there's not people in it. Wow, is that too... I see the green. See how it's green and then there's the magenta? See the pull it out? Yeah, you just bring it to life. We just need more contrast in your stuff here. That's all right. I'm going to hit previous, see what we get. Oh, it's going to crop it. No, Jared, we don't want to do that. Skittles. Good old Skittles. Bring it down. Now it looks cool. Yeah, I just think you need some tightness with it. You just need some, just boom. Get some boom in there. But you're doing a fantastic job. Really good isolation. That's nice. But watch what Skittles does to this. I'm just gonna say it. I know I do it quite often. And I modify it, but Jesus, man. Look at the difference. 18 pops, that all pops much more. Dylan. That's fine. It just feels more like, here's a picture of a whatever, refinery, grain, elevator. Yeah. So it's not as interesting. But what is interesting, let's get up here and get the 3 of these things lined up. Let's get a 50 millimeter shot with that. Let's get some details of the top of the grain elevators, right? Let's go over here and get some information, details from this area. So you get closer and you fill the frame, which looks like what you did here. This is where I wouldn't want to be at f8 as much because I don't think I want all of that stuff in focus. But really, you have so much you could do here. Wides, medium, tights, details. Wides established. Mediums bring you in closer. Tights give you those, like, this is tighter. Details. Come in here and find other things. That's what your wides, medium, tights, and details are all about. I think you're doing a great job here. And it's awesome to get out there. See what Skittles did to that. Maybe a little harsh around this area, but big difference. Now here, I would back up further if you have space and just get a clean shot. Try to find the 50 millimeter equivalent to this, and you'll be in a good spot. Because I think you'll get the whole thing in there. That would be cool. Just not too tight. Nope. Instantly nope. Instantly nope. I can't look at it. It makes me want to throw up. Let me explain why. I do not like Dutch angles. Dutch angles, this isn't right. This is straight. These things are straight up and down. But when you Dutch angle it, you're trying to put interest into an image that doesn't have interest. So you're not going to make it better because you Dutch angle it. Now, some people may argue and tell me that Dutch angles work. I've never seen a Dutch angle that works. You can send them to me. I just don't see them because a lot of times I see them in like wedding photography where the bride is shorter and the groom is taller. So what they do is they make the bride taller by turning the camera this way and even it up, except for the fact that all the trees are back, look like they're going to fall over, and that the people should be sliding down a slope. So try not to do the Dutch angles. And I'm not even going to say that's just personal preference. I just don't think Dutch angles work. Good. Beautiful. Really nice job. And then that gets us to this. I like this. I think this is cool. I think you're doing a really fantastic job. Let's talk about cameras real fast. I know we went into extra innings here. Cropping. I think I answered all your questions because I'm looking at your questions right now. Camera gear. Do you have any recommendations? What lenses would you pair with the cameras recommend? So I do. If you like doing landscapes, I still think Nikon does a fantastic job when it comes to landscape photography. I think the colors and the quality that you can pull out of Nikon is awesome. I think a Z6 II or a Z5 at the very least, or a future Nikon would be great. I think you can pick up some used Z7, a Z7 II for walking around landscapes. Just understand if you're going to start shooting action and other things along those lines, might not be the best option. But I think Nikon has the edge with the colors and clarity that you can pull out. And I also think that Nikon has done a great job with landscapes. So a Z6 II or a Z6 used might be a great option. They have a really nice lineup of 35, 1.8, 50, 1.8, 85, 1.8. Lots of nice prime lenses. So I think you would like some primes, a 35, a 50, an 85. In terms of zoom, you can look at their 24 to 72/8. You can adapt older f-mount glass to this and use that. So you could save a lot of money and do that. I think that would be my choice, is either a Z5, a Z6 II, a Z7 II. Landscapes are more so going to be, you want the 45 megapixels of a Z7 or a Z7 II. If you can find one used at a good price, I would do it. I'm so hesitant to recommend Nikon, though, because they're in a transitioning period of focus. But for what you're doing, I would pick up one of the Nikons. I really would. I think you would really like it for your landscapes. And I think you're doing a great job. So don't be afraid to show your work to anybody, because it's very good. So keep it up. And nice job.
All right, so there you have it. I went into some extra innings for Scott there. I think he's doing a pretty good job for never showing his images to anybody, and I think he should be showing his images to people. Not just for fire emojis, but just to get used to putting it out there into the world and maybe get some gigs from it. So if you want to sign up for a 15-minute rapid fire critique or a one-on-one 45-minute live rapid fire critique with me, head on over to FroKnowsPhoto.com/mentorship. Over there you can find all the information you need, as well as the buttons to sign up. So thank you very much for watching. Jared, Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.